Hey everyone, today I'm diving into one of the most intriguing and mysterious topics in biblical prophecy, the Antichrist. Many people believe that the Antichrist will rise to power during the tribulation, a time of great suffering and upheaval. But who exactly is the Antichrist? Where will he come from? Let's start by clarifying a few things. The Antichrist is often conflated with the beast and the false prophet mentioned in the book of Revelation. However, they are distinct figures with different roles in the end times. The Antichrist is seen as a world leader who will oppose Christ and deceive many. The beast represents a political system or kingdom, and the false prophet is a religious leader who supports the Antichrist. Now, how is the Antichrist connected to the end-time Babylon mentioned in Revelation? Babylon symbolizes a corrupt world system opposed to God. Some scholars believe that Europe, with its cultural and political influence, could be the new Babylon. Intriguingly, the European Parliament building in Strasbourg is often compared to the Tower of Babel. Its design, resembling a modern-day ziggurat, has sparked much speculation. And here's something even more fascinating: some euro coins depict a woman riding a beast. This imagery is strikingly similar to the description in Revelation 17, where a woman rides a scarlet beast. Is this just a coincidence, or is it a subtle hint of Europe's prophetic role? Let's delve deeper into prophecy. The book of Daniel contains a wealth of information about end times. In Daniel 4, there's a prophecy that some interpret as predicting the exact day Babylon would begin to grow again. This is linked to a period known as the Seven Times prophecy, which some scholars believe started in 607 BC and ended in 1914 AD. This period marks significant changes in world powers, potentially setting the stage for the rise of the Antichrist. So is the Antichrist poised to emerge from the shadows? While we can't pinpoint exact dates or identities, we can stay vigilant and informed. Understanding these prophecies helps us recognize the signs of the times. Remember, these insights are not to instill fear, but to inspire preparedness and faith. We're called to be watchful, discerning, and steadfast in our faith. If you found this video insightful, please like, subscribe, and share with others. Let's continue this journey of understanding together. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay blessed.
Join me as I dive deep into the mystery and see if I can uncover the truth about whether the Antichrist will really rise from Europe. The concept of the Antichrist has been shrouded in mystery and intrigue for centuries, featuring prominently in various religious and cultural narratives. From the biblical accounts of Revelation to the apocalyptic prophecies of Nostradamus, the Antichrist has been portrayed as a powerful and malevolent force, threatening the very fabric of humanity. Identifying the Antichrist has proven to be a daunting task, with many misconceptions surrounding its supposed rise from darkness. One common misconception is that the Antichrist is a singular entity, a physical being that will suddenly emerge from the shadows to wreak havoc on humanity. However, biblical scholars have long debated the interpretation of apocalyptic texts, suggesting that the Antichrist could be a symbolic representation of evil or even a collective entity. Furthermore, the assumption that the Antichrist will rise from Europe implies a simplistic, binary understanding of good and evil, neglecting the complexities of human nature. Another misconception is that the Antichrist will be some sort of monster or supernatural being, rather than a human figure driven by a twisted ideology or agenda. This misconception has led many to focus on fantastical or paranormal explanations, rather than exploring the more subtle and insidious forms of evil that can manifest in our world. The rise of totalitarian regimes, the manipulation of global events, and the exploitation of technological advancements all pose significant threats to humanity, yet are often overlooked in favor of more sensationalized narratives. The search for the Antichrist has also been marred by a fixation on specific individuals, from historical figures like Napoleon Bonaparte to modern-day leaders like Vladimir Putin. While these individuals may embody some characteristics associated with the Antichrist, they are not the embodiment of evil itself. Rather, they represent complex human beings driven by a multitude of factors, including political ideologies, personal ambitions, and psychological motivations. To reduce the complexity of human nature to a single, simplistic label does a disservice to our understanding of the human condition. Historical and contemporary interpretations of the Antichrist offer a fascinating glimpse into the collective psyche of humanity. From the early Christian Church's identification of Roman emperors as the Antichrist to modern-day conspiracy theories surrounding secret societies and global elites, the concept has evolved to reflect the anxieties and fears of each era. In recent times, the Antichrist has become synonymous with catastrophic events, such as nuclear war or environmental disasters, which threaten the very survival of humanity. The rise of globalization and digital communication has also brought about new interpretations of the Antichrist, with some identifying it as a symbol of the destructive forces of capitalism or the dehumanizing effects of technology. Others see the Antichrist as a representation of the collective unconscious, a manifestation of humanity's darkest impulses and desires. These interpretations often blur the lines between reality and myth, reflecting our deep-seated fears and anxieties about the future. One of the most compelling arguments for the Antichrist's emergence is the growing sense of global disunity and chaos. As nations and societies become increasingly polarized, the risk of catastrophic conflicts and environmental disasters grows. In this context, the Antichrist could be seen as a symbol of the destructive forces that are tearing humanity apart, rather than a single, apocalyptic figure. Another argument is the rise of charismatic leaders who harness the power of social media and propaganda to manipulate public opinion and sow discord. These individuals, often driven by a twisted sense of self-importance or ideological zealotry, can exert a profound influence over the global narrative, shaping public discourse and pushing the world closer to the brink of catastrophe. The exponential growth of technological advancements also poses a significant risk, as the potential for mass destruction and surveillance increases exponentially. In this context, the Antichrist could be seen as a symbol of the darker aspects of human innovation, representing the potential for humanity to create its own destruction. But what does the Bible say about him? Scripture refers to this person as the Assyrian. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand in mine indignation. Wherefore it shall come to pass, that when the Lord hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria, and the glory of his high looks. These verses refer to end time, and that the leading characteristics of the man of sin can be clearly discerned in what is here said of the Assyrian. Almost all premillennial students of prophecy are agreed that the king of Isa. 30:33 is the Antichrist, and yet in the two verses which precede, this king is identified with the Assyrian. So, we know he is referred to as the Assyrian. But does that mean he comes from that region of the world? Do you suppose that the ancient Assyrians are still stuck in that tiny region all these thousands of years? Are the Israelites, Egyptians or Babylonians still where they were thousands of years ago? The answer to that is an emphatic no. Due to conquests, invasions, politics, droughts and pestilence, everyone has moved around. So we have to look at the big picture. There are countries today, far removed from that region of the world that retain customs and symbols from that region and, more importantly, are actually in position to fulfill that prophecy. Another prophecy concerns Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. He had a dream and Daniel gave him the interpretation of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and, behold, a watcher and an holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud, and said thus, Hew down the tree, and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves, and scatter his fruit, let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Daniel 4:13-14. Daniel's interpretation was as follows, and whereas the king saw a watcher and an holy one coming down from heaven, and saying, Hew the tree down, and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him. Daniel 4:23. This 7-year prophecy, when broken down into days according to the Hebrew calendar, would amount to 2,520 days. Since the Bible often uses a year for a day principle concerning prophecy, this would amount to 2,520 years. So, on one level, Nebuchadnezzar would go insane for an actual 7 years and then be restored to his right mind. But prophetically, the system of Babylon would be leaderless for 2,520 years. That leader is the Antichrist. Let's now look at the circumstances behind the fall of Babylon. And this is the writing that was written, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing, Mene, God hath numbered thy kingdom, and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances, and art found wanting. Perez, thy kingdom is divided, and given to the Medes and Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet, and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him, that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. In that night was Belshazzar the king of the Chaldeans slain. And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. Daniel 5:25-31. This writing was the famous handwriting on the wall. This occurred as the Babylonians were drinking wine from the golden cups removed from the temple at Jerusalem. The irony is that these terms were terms used as units of weight of gold or money. The sum total value when described in the smallest unit of money of the day would be 2,520 gerahs. Notice it's the same number derived from Nebuchadnezzar's dream. We now have a time frame, 2,520 years from the destruction of Babylon to the return of its king, the Antichrist. So in what year did Babylon fall? The city of Sippar fell on the 14th day of Tishri in 539 BC of the Hebrew calendar, which marked the fall of Babylon according to Daniel. 2,520 years from this date would be October 1, 1982. So what noteworthy thing happened on this date? On that day, the Chancellor of West Germany was suddenly replaced by Helmut Kohl. Kohl would play a key role in uniting East and West Germany and establishing the European Union. This union economically unites the people of the old Roman Empire. Remember, all of the beast empires operate under the system of their progenitor, Babylon. So, to be the ruler of Rome is also to be the ruler of the Babylonian system. In this case, Germany is the driving force behind the European Union. I say all that to say this, Mystery Babylon, the woman that rides the beast, is actually a mythological character called Europa, who rode a beast that was Zeus in disguise and from whence the continent gets its name. This image can be found on coins and as statues throughout Europe today. Also, remember the people of Europe who are part of this system have migrated all over the world and are collectively called the West. A number of connections exist between the ancient nation of Assyria and modern-day Germany, cultural, geographical, appearance-related, etc. Some demonstrate how Germany's cultural history and national character, more than any other modern nation, resemble that of ancient Assyria. Looking at Germany's origins, for example, there is an interesting legend concerning the nation's oldest city, Trier. While official records claim Trier was built by the Romans, the legend has it that Trier was built some 4,000 years ago by the Assyrian prince Trebeda, a son of the Assyrian king Ninus. Translated, a medieval inscription on the facade of the Red House at Trier Market reads, 1300 years before Rome, Trier stood, may it stand on and enjoy eternal peace, Amen. Archives state that Trebeda was the son of Ninus, a king of Assyria. Apparently, Trebeda left Assyria and led a group of colonizers to Europe, thus founding the Assyrian colony of Trier. In conclusion, the concept of the Antichrist is far more complex and nuanced than popularly imagined. Rather than a simplistic, binary understanding of good and evil, the Antichrist represents a multifaceted symbol of humanity's darker impulses and the destructive forces that threaten our world. What do you think? Do you believe the Antichrist is poised to rise from the shadows? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to check out our next video on biblical prophecies and their relevance to modern times.
Could pure evil be hiding right under our noses? Imagine something so strong and sneaky that it could control the entire world. This is the scary idea of the Antichrist, a mysterious and frightening figure for centuries. The Antichrist represents the ultimate fight between good and evil, light and darkness. But could this symbol of darkness be about to step into the light? Join us as we explore if the Antichrist's reign of terror could start in Europe. The Antichrist isn't a new idea. This ultimate evil character has fascinated and scared people for generations. Religious books, especially Christian ones, warn us about a time when the Antichrist will become powerful. This will be a time of major trouble, a huge fight for the future of humanity. But who is the Antichrist? And how can we recognize them before it's too late? Figuring out who the Antichrist is really hard. The predictions about this figure are often mysterious and can be understood in different ways. Throughout history, many people have been called the Antichrist, from Roman emperors to modern politicians. The very nature of prophecy, with its hidden meanings and metaphors, makes identifying the Antichrist a difficult, if not impossible, task. The Antichrist is more than just a character in religious books. This entity has become a powerful symbol in our minds, representing the darkest parts of human nature. The Antichrist embodies deception, manipulation, and the desire for power. Their arrival means a time of chaos when the very foundation of society crumbles. Understanding the Antichrist means looking beyond the literal interpretations. This figure represents the potential for evil that exists within all of us. It reminds us of how fragile peace is and how we must constantly fight against evil. The Antichrist power doesn't come from physical strength, but from their ability to use our fears against us and trick us into betraying our values. Throughout history, people have looked for clues to the Antichrist's identity. Some believe the Antichrist will be a charming leader, someone who can trick the masses with promises of peace and prosperity, only to betray them once they have all the power. Others believe the Antichrist will be a master of deception, a wolf in sheep's clothing, who will use religion and spirituality to manipulate and control believers. To understand the Antichrist, we must look back at history. From the Roman emperors who persecuted early Christians to the dictators of the 20th century, history is full of figures who have embodied the Antichrist spirit. These individuals, driven by ambition and a thirst for power, left a trail of devastation and suffering behind them. Some scholars point to the Roman Empire as a breeding ground for the Antichrist. The emperors, with their claims of being gods and having absolute power, instilled fear and demanded complete loyalty. Nero, in particular, became known for cruelty and excess, his persecution of Christians cementing his place in history as a potential Antichrist. The rise of totalitarian regimes in the 20th century made people speculate even more about the Antichrist's arrival. Hitler, with his ideology of hate, his systematic killing of Jews, and his ambition to establish a 1,000-year Reich, became a chilling embodiment of the Antichrist for many. His rise to power, fueled by economic instability and social unrest, served as a stark reminder of the seductive power of fear and how easily even the most civilized societies can fall into darkness. Section 4. Echoes in the Present. While history offers a glimpse into the potential face of the Antichrist, current events have led many to believe that the Antichrist's arrival is close. The world today is facing challenges like never before. Climate change, global pandemics, economic instability, and political polarization. These crises, some argue, are creating the perfect situation for the Antichrist to seize power. Some religious scholars point to the increasing secularization of society as a sign that the world is ready for the Antichrist's arrival. As traditional values erode and faith decreases, people become more vulnerable to the Antichrist's message of false hope and empty promises. The rise of social media and the spread of misinformation have only made this worse, creating an environment where truth is hard to find and manipulation is everywhere. Others believe that the Antichrist will not be a single person but rather a system or ideology that tries to control and enslave humanity. They point to the growing influence of authoritarian regimes, the erosion of privacy rights, and the increasing surveillance of citizens as evidence that the world is slowly but surely moving towards a dystopian future where individual liberty is sacrificed for security and control. Section 5. The Shadow over Europe. While the Antichrist could appear anywhere in the world, some believe that Europe, with its long and troubled history, is a likely candidate. Europe has been the birthplace of both great good and great evil. It was where democracy and the Renaissance started, but also the battleground for 2 world wars and countless other conflicts. The European Union, a political and economic powerhouse, has raised concerns among some who see it as a potential birthplace for the Antichrist. The EU's growing influence and its push for greater integration have led some to believe that it could eventually become a single unified state, fulfilling the biblical prophecy of a one-world government ruled by the Antichrist. Adding to these concerns is the rise of right-wing populist movements across Europe. These movements, fueled by economic anxiety, anti-immigrant sentiment, and a rejection of globalization, have gained significant ground in recent years. Some fear that these movements, with their nationalist rhetoric and authoritarian tendencies, could pave the way for the emergence of a charismatic leader who could unite Europe under a banner of hate and intolerance. Section 6. A World on the Brink. The Antichrist remains a mystery, a shadowy figure hiding in the back of our minds. Whether a single person or a system of control, the Antichrist represents the potential for evil to rise and engulf the world in darkness. As we navigate the 21st century, we must remain vigilant against extremism and the erosion of our values. The question is not if the Antichrist will emerge, but when and in what form. The battle between good and evil is eternal, and our choices today will determine humanity's fate. Will we give in to fear and division, paving the way for the Antichrist's reign of terror, or will we embrace compassion and a shared commitment to a better future? What do you think? Could the Antichrist emerge from Europe, or is this just another interpretation of ancient prophecies? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the conversation. And don't forget to check out our next episode where we'll explore the possibility of a global conspiracy to bring about the Antichrist's reign.